I'm based here in Christchurch. I've got the privilege to be able to bring three pretty amazing people together tonight just to be able to talk about all things wellbeing. It's quite a likely sort of time to be doing this too in lockdown, a second lockdown. And I was just talking to Ali earlier on. We're talking about well-being and mental health for our young people and not so young as well. So it's about, for the next sort of 40, 50 minutes, bringing it together. Currently, just apologies for Kane. Kane's had a wee bit of technical difficulties, and he's actually driving his waka to another neighbour to be able to get some reception. So he must live somewhere in the Wops up north, I reckon. But kia ora. Thank you for having me. So just a wee bit of who I am. I whakapapa. I'm from Canterbury boy, born in the Waikato, but whakapapa here. And a wee place north of Christchurch called Rangiora. Grew up there, and my first piece of my journey after high school was actually in the ag sector, and I was 14 years in the Ngāhere as a forestry worker, so a silviculturalist. So, and I moved to university at 28, 29, and for the last 19 years I've been in the wellbeing and mental health space in Otatahi, Christchurch, and I'm currently been out for the last 2 years doing my own thing. So I do lots of wellbeing in the workplace, a lot of mental health, and I work closely with, my passion is young people. I was just saying that to Ali earlier on, and I currently work alongside Master Plumber, and I'm the wellbeing guy for about 280 apprentices in the plumbing area all across Aotearoa, which I love doing. So welcome. And this is going to be chilled, relaxed, hopefully with Kane on board. We've got these three incredible people. I'm going to introduce them quickly. Now I'm going to start from the deep south. Aroha mai Tanarawa Walker. He is I've forgotten, Farm for Life, bro. And I jumped on a YouTube video of you and Kane together, and there's lots of fuck words. Can you say the F word? But awesome hour of, and your following is huge, bro. And what you're doing in the farming and ag sector is just incredible. Welcome. No, my huddy, my bro.
Kia ora, bro.
Left is we got the lovely Ali Perium. She's based just out of Lincoln. And when I first caught her, when I asked to do this emceeing for tonight, I researched Ali today and said, oh my God, I watched you 2 years ago or 3 years ago on Country Calendar, because that's one of my favourite shows. So welcome. And you're amazing. Your social media presence is Will to Live. It's incredible. And it just gives me goosebumps thinking what you've done and what you're doing and continue to do. So welcome, no mai hari mai. I'll introduce Kane, hopefully, when he gets here. But Kane is from the Naki, Is he a Naki boy? Tanarawa, I think he's a Naki boy.
Bro.
We won't hold that against him. He's on that east coast by the big mountain. But just watching some of his stuff too today, Farm Fit and some of the outdoor Jake the Muss, Rocky.
Take it off.
Not okay. I was just your intro was impeccable, bro. I was just introducing you. Kia ora.
I was listening in, mate. I just wanted to jam in here. I'm in a girl's bedroom.
Not be honest with clients.
Must be doing something right, eh?
Kia ora, guys. This is not about me. It's about you three. So welcome these incredible people and doing some incredible things in the ag sector. Look, this is about opening it up to the, wow, it just keeps climbing, 228, 230 people online to be able to want to have a kōrero. I'm not too sure. Look, this is about being relaxed, and look, at the end of the day too, some of this stuff we talk about can bring up a wee bit of shit, because it's hard to sugarcoat mental health and how we think and feel. So just, no question is no wrong question. There's no dumb question. Look, it can stir some stuff up, guys. So if you're thinking you need a wee bit more, post this kōrero, this yarn, look, there's my website, and I do have a Facebook page too. So just leave a message, and I can just check in with you or whoever tomorrow. Or probably one of my skill sets too is, even though we're all across the country, I do have a good knowledge of where our pathways if you're needing some help too. So, kia ora. We'll leave it at that. So how do we work with this, Danny? Are you still there with us, or should we just open it up? Who wants to crack? Who wants to start it off? How do we do this?
Bro, I've got a couple of questions, Kiyama.
Kia ora.
Bro, so what's your background, bro? Like, obviously you're in the wellness space. Do you want to just can you give me a bit of an understanding of the weapons that you've got and your artillery?
Yeah, no worries. I left school very young, 14. I hated school, and we went straight into the forestry or North Canterbury Forest. Went to social work. So I'm a social worker by trade, but in the last sort of 15, 16 years, my thing has been I've been across the DHB, so with the hospital setting, but in the wellbeing space. For the last 8-9 years, I've been working with youth, so 13 to 25. All in mental health and the youth justice as well. So doing lots of stuff in what we call our youth juvies, working alongside some of that addiction and alcohol and drug issues as well. But for the last sort of 3 years, Tanaro, I've been sort of just working alongside our young people with Master Plumber and doing lots of sort of more corporate stuff now and working alongside organisations that are struggling with their staff around wellbeing and getting a sense of how we can sort of, or I can provide some tools for the kit. So when I do see our young people, like for an example, I was in Wellington 2 weeks ago and I had a team of about 9 young people up there. There'd been a sort of a sudden death up there. So I went up there just to talk to the team and just to look at sort of checking in and getting a sense of, you know, because my thing, I think, Tanara, is that we still don't, as Kiwi males, we still hold it in here. We don't put our hand up and say, actually, I'm not feeling okay. I was saying to Ali earlier on, you know, my dad's 83, so that's 8 generations, and they didn't talk about their feelings then. And for me, being a Gen X, so I don't know, 1920 in the late 80s, again, too, was hard in the fuck up, excuse my language. And now this generation, what we call our millennials or our Gen Zs coming through, we still have our you know, Kiwis, males especially, have that tendency of stuff that I'm all right, bro. Nothing wrong with me, bro. So it's about how can we get our young people to put their hand up and say, actually, I do need to reach out. Yeah, so that's sort of my current space as well-being, which I'm quite passionate about. Cool.
Hey, bro. Hey.
Awesome.
And I was just saying to Tanaroa Kane, I was watching a video with you guys today. I think Tanaroa was in his ute and you were at home and you just had that great kōrero. I think you were introducing who you were where you come from as well. It was awesome, eh?
Yeah.
Just real stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the key, isn't it? Is keeping it real and honest. Like that's modelling what we need to see from everyone, isn't it? So it's not easy to do for anyone, but you know, the more people do it.
Oh, exactly. And just sort of doing some research today, guys, around sort of, you know, what you guys from your social media presence and looking some of that Farm Fit YouTube videos too, Kane. You know, it's all about that 5 things of wellbeing, that really healthy stuff we have. I'm just getting told by the boss. Oh, is there a panel question?
Kane, can you make sure to talk about your table today?
Oh, table.
The dinner
sorry.
The dinner table.
So to read out the panel discussion question, there's a need to strike a balance with that one. Sorry, guys, I'm going to be very serious here now. There is a need to strike a balance between prevention and treatment in resource-limited settings. What does that mean? Oh, so do you know what I mean by that?
Say it again, sorry.
So there is a need to strike a balance between prevention and treatment in resource-limited settings.
Yeah.
And mental health. So, yeah, is there anything that you sort of want to add to that?
Well, from my point of view, I don't think there's anywhere near enough prevention. We're all ambulance at the bottom of the cliff sort of stuff, really, aren't we? Which it's hard because there's that many people falling off the cliff that we need a lot of ambulances down there, but it's way easier to put the fence up the top. So a lot of money goes to those ambulances, and not much on the fence.
Yeah. And I think that's a good answer, because we tend to focus a lot more on not having the ambulance at the top of the cliff, where we can actually sort of educate, and it's around that harm reduction. It's around being able to sort of say, what can we do to prevent things that get to that end up at that hard end.
Yeah.
Sorry, Ellie, you're breaking up.
I've got messages and shit, all sorts coming through.
I know I've got heaps now. Sorry, I've had the technical guys sit beside me. Actually, I must. Aroha, my two guys. I'm actually. So my part of my role too is my wife's the CEO of Young Farmers. So please, out there, don't hold that against me. So let's have a look at some of these questions, eh?
I'll add on to what you said about prevention versus treatment. Unfortunately, with a lot of prevention, it's like, how early do you start? To be honest, a lot of, my first mental health issues started from childhood. I know many do. And it's sort of like, how do we actually reparent ourselves as adult children? Because a lot of core beliefs are made between the first 7 years of life. So whatever happened within those first 7 years, you'll go throughout the rest of your life believing it. So if you were, told you weren't good enough, you were ugly, and you'll carry it with you. And you get to a certain age where sometimes when you do go to a counsellor or a healer or something, they will actually question you more about your first 10 years of life than they will the last 5 years that you've been struggling, because sometimes little things keep adding on, and then you're an adult and now you've got to unpack the last 20 years of stuff. So when it comes to prevention, it can start as soon as conscious parenting and just knowing, like little things like that. So I find prevention so hard, and I really, because obviously we're just seeing people that are of need of help and at the bottom of the cliff most of the time, but slowly unpacking. That's what I find. But if anyone has any sort of ideas on where to start with prevention, the first good thing's awareness, though, isn't it? And just sharing our stories as publicly and openly as we can to try and get more people to do the same.
Yeah, opening up. Tanada, add to that?
Yeah, I've so I think that there's a lot of gold to be found between the top of the cliff and the bottom of the cliff. I think there's a lot of gold there, and what I mean by that is a lot of people that have obviously tried to commit suicide, failed, but are still alive to tell the story. I don't think we are picking their brains as much as we probably could. So we're going to start that conversation. We've got about maybe 11 people lined up from around New Zealand who are willing to tell their story about literally the mindset that they have as they're going into it, and then obviously the mindset that they have after it, and their perceived opinion of what they thought was going to feel like as they went into it. So I think there's a lot of gold to be sucked up there. So I suppose it's about conversation, and this is bloody awesome to be starting it right now with you three and getting it out there to the world to just get kickstarted and start talking about it, because shit, we've all got feelings.
Yeah. No, and when I think about finding that lived experience with someone, and you're right, Ali, because when you have that, because everything's learned behaviour for me anyway. When I think about, because people always ask me, do you have a mental health issue? And for me, personally, I say actually no, I don't. I get low, I get down, but the thing that I learned for me was anger. So, monkey see, monkey do with my dad. So for me growing up, watching my dad be verbally, not ever physically aggressive, but verbally aggressive to my mother, after a couple of beers too. So I learnt that behaviour and then take it into my relationships as I got older too. So that was, I had to sort of go away and work and find ways of dealing with the way I delivered my message, which was quite aggressive. And that's my own self-disclosure. But how do we find that prevention versus just going to a GP and actually you need to do this, this, and this. And I think if we can start the opportunity just to be able to get our young people and not so young people to speak about how they're feeling or feeling comfortable about actually I'm not feeling okay. That's that start of that journey. Kia ora.
I've got bro. I've got to be honest. I found just recently in the last probably 12 days, I've learnt something that I've been I don't even know why I do it, but it's just honestly fucked me over big time at work, and given me so much frustration whilst in the busiest time of the year. And it's I normally it's being an employer or being not being too worried about having breakfast and lunch and keeping hydrated and food and all that my whole life when it comes to being on farm. I've sort of been had the mindset of let's just get it done, then we can go home and have a good break. But sometimes that last 20 or 30% of the job and the time doing the job, whether it's like processing springers or, I don't know, drenching cows or whatever, sometimes it can be we won't take that 5 or 10 minutes to go and have a drink or a break, and that mindset that you have doing that last 20 or 30 minutes of that work can be so draining and taxing and frustrating and freaking pissing you off. And it wasn't until last week I was just like, fuck it, I'm just going to stop, go and have a bloody toast in the cow shed, and then come back and finish drenching these cows. And because I was so frustrated, I was fucking losing it, eh? And I literally went away, had a feed, had a toast, peanut butter and jam, quick as 5 minutes, smack the Milo, and come back out, and I was just so much more chilled and relaxed and got the bloody job done. And I think about it in the last 10 years in it being self-employed, and previously to that, working underneath bosses, it's always been let's just get it done because my heart's always in it, and cows come first. But that frustration that you can have in that last 20 or 30% of the job can be so damaging and sort of change your working environment big time, especially if you're working with other people, And so we just stopped, had a break, and then come back and it's finished the last 20 minutes, and fuck man, just fully enjoyed it, eh? Me and the team. Whereas I was sort of finding myself being really short with the boys a little bit. Yeah, and I'm sort of trying to change that mindset. So yeah.
And that's that whole, like you say, hangry or stopping the burnout, bro. You more or less stop the burnout there. Actually stop, take a rest, think about it. And Kane, that's like those, that farm fit, that whole, what do we got? We got mind, exercise, I'm losing it, food, sleep. I don't know, sleep. It's just they're all key components, so just to function. Yeah.
And it's interesting, as much as the food helped you, it was probably just the mental change shift up there.
Switch out of it,
2 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, bro. Yeah. Perspective, gave me perspective.
Yeah, 100%. That's it. And it's you could have just had a drink of water and fucking just stepped back for a second and thought, it's as much mental as that physical eating, eh?
But it's sort of like a lot of us farmers, bro. We've been and like yourself, like sportsmen, we've when it gets tough, you bite your teeth together and you freaking smash it, eh? If you're in a boxing fight and someone's smashing, you don't be like, oh wait, I have a break, I'll just go think about it. If you're in rugby, bro, and you're getting smashed, it's not barely ever do they stop, have a huddle up, and then talk about it, and then go out and perform the sport. It's fuck it, grit your teeth, run it at me, bitch. You know what I mean? And that's what it's sort of the mindset that we have at work sometimes. But I don't know. Just totally, I don't know if there's any learnings there, but fuck, I'm gonna have way more peanut butter and jam toast.
Good on you. Hey, look, guys, I think we've got some amazing questions here. I'm just going to put it out to the panel. I'm going to read the first one. Kia ora, Shane Hayes. This is from Shane. Sean. I know my opinion, but how do you guys think this COVID stuff will affect people's mental health long term, especially farmers, as we are already isolated? Good
question.
That is a good question.
Ellie?
Right, Jane. It's kind of a hard one because, I mean, our philosophy has always been, since we've started, to help farmers that are isolated. So everything that we share or do is generally a lot of self-healing, self-help tools already, that if you can't access someone else, this is what you can do to help while being isolated. So COVID is yeah, like obviously we can't see that. It's I think definitely over COVID, I'd like to hope that farmers can spend a lot of time thinking of what they're grateful for and their gratitude, because I think about it every day. It could be worse. I could not have all the space to run around and live in an apartment in the middle of Christchurch and not be able to go anywhere. But hopefully it really makes everyone stop and smell the roses of, like, you're on a massive landscape. Look at how much you have around you, sort of thing. Well, that's what I'm trying to do. And that's one thing, practicing your gratitude, whether you're even the first thing in the morning, whether you either write it down or say it in your head, 3 things you're grateful for. Studies and research have shown everywhere that it relieves depression and anxiety, from so many case studies, that it's such a simple thing to do, but you can't be unhappy and sad and think about something that you're grateful for at the same time. It's kind of like your brain can't multitask. But yeah, I'm really not too sure how farmers are gonna are feeling at the moment. It's really hard to speak on generalized terms, but yeah.
Do you guys, just add to that, do you guys think
That's
the second lockdown's different? I was saying to Ali before you guys jumped on around sort of, we're walking, we live in the middle of Christchurch, so we walk, and this time around people aren't as friendly when you say kia ora or hello on the street. It's just they seem to be a bit more anxious or on edge, and it's just a different sort of wider or energy in the community from last March. Everyone sort of had a big rest and said this is great. I don't know whether you guys are noticing that in the farms or your areas of New Zealand.
Yeah, I'm over it.
Yeah.
Love your honesty.
I think there's that general feeling that people, like, we got through that first lockdown and everyone was there wasn't a lot of information around it, and it was a big deal, but everyone got through it with a smile on their face, sort of thing. And we've been let back out into normal life. Concerts were happening, everything was honky dory down our end of the world, and we've been thrust back into it without much warning. And people are just like, it's like we had that. It's like running out of prison and then getting caught. Like you get a taste of freedom, and then all of a sudden you're back in. So I've definitely got the feeling that people are a bit more over it this time. The novelty of lockdown wore off a bit. In terms of like being a farmer in COVID, I think like last year I struggled at the end of lockdown last time, because even though me and my family had an awesome time, like we spent some great time with the kids and went camping on the farm and all that sort of great stuff. I'm actually someone that needs to get off farm. Like I have to once in a while just leave the place to forget about it, for a day or two. So I actually struggled at the end because I was stuck on farm for like 8 weeks or whatever it was, or 6 weeks. I was actually itching to get off and just get away from it for a day, even if it was just to go out for dinner or lunch, or go somewhere different. So I think long term that'll I think we're very lucky here that our lockdown shouldn't be long, but I think it's also frustrating to, like, I'm meant to be having a meeting with my accountant, and it's quite hard for me to get into, book the space to get into town and have a meeting with someone and get back to the farm this time of the year. So it is quite frustrating. It does feel more isolating because there's only so many opportunities I get to go to town, and I think that does create a little bit more sense of isolation. when you're in, whether it's level 2 or level 3 or level 4 or whatever. It's just frustrating, I think, and that creates a bit of distance.
No, kia ora. I think I've got another one here, guys. I'm not too sure if it's a statement, more of a statement than a question, but I want to read it out. It says, there's no name attached. It says, mental health is a big thing. I'm contracted milking 230 cows and I'm buggered. I feel like just walking away from farming, 15 years, born and bred farming, 30 years. Some days I just feel like going, fuck it, I'm over it and walking away. But I go home, have a rest, have a jam on my console and relax. Next day I'm recharged and I go, love my job. I wouldn't do anything else. So kia ora. So he's found when his bucket's full, he or she, and he can has his jam and then he recharges and boom, he's back into it the next day. So kia ora for that. A nice statement.
Yeah. But thanks for sharing. I've done that multiple times with the Will to Live platform. I've gone to my sisters and been like, fuck it, I'm over it. I don't want to do it anymore. Just gotten way too busy and I couldn't handle it. And I was just going to throw everything in. And generally it was during a time where I already had was dealing with some personal issues. But passion is still there. It's like your brain can't seem to want to do both at the same time, and there's definitely times I think with anyone, and it's thanks for sharing that, because definitely resonated. I've done that, but I'm glad that I just got some rest and actually stuck with it at the end.
Kia ora, Ellie. I've got another one here. Kia ora, Belinda Price. This is a great question. So this is to the panel. Do you think mental health is worse now than it used to be, or are we just talking more about it? Or about it more?
Good question.
That is a great question.
I think social media has changed things big time.
Yeah.
Social media?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I think that's been the big kicker, especially likes, comments, and shares. It's gives you a rating of your status of friendship, right?
Yeah.
And how many people like you. So.
But see, I get lots of people asking me, though, do you think social media has increased our suicide rates or increased our anxiety, increased our isolation for our young people? So I get that sort of other end of that yarn. And I'm just thinking, I don't know, because I have lots of older people asking me that question. And I think social media is there for a good thing, but it's the way to connect. Trying to tell my 19-year-old stepdaughter that to take the phone and put it down is just like a myth, because that's part of their limb now. So social media is huge.
Yeah. I think probably in terms of mental health, I think the problems people have now are different. They've changed rapidly. I think probably in the last 10, 15 years with technology and the internet probably has come along with that. But life's changed so much from when I was a kid. I think something like anxiety is becoming a huge problem. I guess you categorise that as mental health. I don't know whether depression's any worse. I think something like anxiety definitely is in our the things we hang our hat on, our self-worth, like Tangaroa just touched on, is definitely different. That desire to be popular or liked or loved, like the older generations that I've talked to about it, they could not give a fuck if old mate down the road doesn't like them or whatnot. And we've got a bunch of people on a platform worrying about people they've never met, whether they like them or not. So I think the issues have massively changed, and they're probably a lot more common. But I think if you would have honest conversations with 60-year-old people or 50-year-olds, they'd probably tell you they've been through some dark times and been in some dark places just like we all have. Maybe the resilience is a little bit different, or how that looks to them, how they got through it is a bit different. But I think, definitely there's different problems that are getting worse. But it's hard to, there's no honest surveys on it, is there? So it's hard to know, truly.
So Ellie, do you think as this generation we're talking about it more, though? Do you think when the people that you work with, do you think this generation's putting their hand up more about it?
Yeah, I think they are, and I think it's due to how many people like Tongaroa and Kane and all the amazing people that are out there, like sharing their story, no matter what the consequence, authentic. And I'm actually getting stories sent in to Will to Live nearly every day now of people being like, oh, I suffered from anxiety. Yesterday I put a post out looking for people to give me testimonials on psychologists and counsellors. So we have a new project launching in the end of September, which will be funding livestock farmers around New Zealand with private psychologists. So 3 sessions up to $600 worth. So I, to promote this new fund program, I wanted to hear from farmers if they've used a private psych, paid for one. And I was blown away. I got like 50 messages that evening of people telling me what it was like, because I really want to destigmatize, because going to it, they used to call it going to a shrink, if you go on, you've got to be pretty bad, but we're saying no, you don't even you don't have to be depressed or thoughts to go get help. You can just feel a little bit off and still go and get help, because better to get it early. But yeah, from that, I get blown away all the time with how much has changed over the last 24 months with people speaking out. I think it's pretty epic. Yeah,
cool. Yeah, nice one. I've got another one here from Marcia Podini. Kia ora, Marcia. How do we encourage people to protect their mental health by drawing on the 5 ways to wellbeing instead of drugs, alcohol, anger, and risk-taking that masks the trauma? Good question. How do we encourage people to protect their mental health by drawing on the 5 ways to wellbeing?
Kano, you've just frozen, bro.
Yeah, was he just about to say something and it froze?
No, he's just thinking about it.
He's deep in thought. Deep in thought, bro.
For me, while Kano comes back on, I think a quick way, the reason that we reach for the bottle or for the pipe or the smoke or whatever it is probably because it's easily accessed. But the people that you surround yourself with can definitely change your environment for the better. So for me, I think joining a sports team or some group or people with similar interests or values is definitely a way to get out of it and change that mindset, because it's being alone. That's when you sort of reach to those things, the alcohol and the drugs, and then all of a sudden you're addicted and you're easily swung that way, because it's easy. It's right there. It's like you can literally take it in your pocket. Yeah, mate. That's my opinion.
Kia ora. Yeah. Anything to add, Ellie? I think that's... honestly, I did lots of drugs and alcohol very soon after Willie's passing. So I sort of didn't really start my grieving process till month 2 or 3, because by the time I sobered up. But it was more the fact I didn't know why I went there, but I think it was just because the pain was just so surreal that you're just knew that getting drunk and falling asleep and you'd just forget about it for a second, or you'd just do anything for that 10 seconds of peace in your mind. Yeah. And I think, and I talk about this a lot, because I feel that we should not judge anyone that goes down that path, because unless we've been there ourselves, obviously I lost a lot of friends over it, and I was probably a pretty rude human, to be honest. It's just a coping mechanism, and sometimes you actually have to just let people do what they want and get to rock bottom for them to go up. I'll never shame someone saying, oh, you've been through a hard time, get off this, because I just say, do what you want, express your feelings, get angry, get sad, do what you want. If you want to have a whiskey night, do it, because you got to open it up and really let them express. But there were 2 messages I got the week of Willie passing. One was from a friend that said, oh, Ellie, I'm really sorry about your loss, just lay off the bottle, and then the other one was, Ellie, I can sympathize with you because I lost my brother,
You're allowed to scream, kick, have a tantrum, do what you want. I'm here for you. And it was the fact that someone allowed me to feel was massive. And I got hundreds of messages, but those two were so opposite, and I remember them so clearly. One was so shutting down, and one was not putting any more guilt on me because I knew that I acted wrong. But I'm a completely different person. Like, I reflect on that now and go, whoa. But I felt like I had to hit rock bottom for me to really be like, I don't want to be like this anymore, if that makes sense. Not saying go down that path, team. I'm just saying, erase the judgments, and don't be too hard on yourself, because we all make mistakes, but if we don't learn from them, that's when we're having a loss.
Yeah. And trauma can, trigger that too. When we have past trauma in childhood, that can trigger that sort of, it opens up to us a wee bit of that. Kia ora, Kane, I think you're back there, bro. All good?
Yeah, mate, I ran out of juice for the old laptop here. Sorry about that.
I loved your relaxed style, brother. Do you want to add to any of that? How do we encourage people to protect their mental health by drawing on those 5 ways to well-being instead of drugs, alcohol, anger, and risk-taking that can mask that trauma?
Yeah, so I think what I was saying before I froze up there, probably with my mouth wide open, was I'm really big on self-awareness. So having an understanding of where you're struggling or where you're at in relation to those 5 pillars of health, so that's the real key for me is understanding where I'm at and what I need to do to keep my table solid, I guess, for lack of a better word.
Nice one. Thank you. We've got another one here. Many kids, I'm just having a look at that. Actually, I might come back to that one. So this is from Kit Holmes. Kia ora, Kit. If you're a person who needs food or a break, but have a boss who doesn't want to stop, how do you find that balance or get them to see it from your perspective? Great question.
I think sometimes when you're a coach of a sports team, sometimes you don't pick specific players because they're the best. Sometimes you pick specific players because they can get 100% out of everybody else. And I think as like employers, we need to realize that if we want to get 100% out of everybody 100% of the time, what are the things that we need to do to get there? And obviously having a toast and a Milo is going to keep those people peaking 24/7. Whereas I think they probably just haven't realised that's lagging, by not giving them that time. But sometimes it's just we're so busy, man. Sometimes, and I think sometimes we do need to just get shit done and get it out of the road, and then have our breaks. But long as it's not happening all the time.
Kia ora. Yeah, I was just thinking about plumbing, probably in the last sort of 4 to 6 weeks, I've been seeing 2 plumbers or 2 apprentice plumbers that have burnout. And I think because some of the bosses has got that old school, probably my generation, that Gen X, born in the 70s, and have that sort of head down, ass up mentality too. And the young people today, the environment's different. They do need to be sort of reinforced, hey, you're doing well, things are going well. Where in that generation, late 80s, again, it was harden the fuck up. It was 20-minute break, half an hour for lunch, 20 minutes for smoko, back up, you do your work. And I think for that, being able to sort of put your hand up and indicate or speak to your boss, hey, I need to have a break or I need to communicate. How do you communicate that to that next generation, if that makes sense? I don't know whether, Ellie, you've had that issues in the past with past bosses?
Well, I've only had one really, really terrible boss, and I ended up leaving. But I don't know. I don't just mean but yeah, I do find that whole working with different generations thing still a bit of a mind boggle. But I think you need to take away the shame of you speaking up about needing a break. Like, we sort of keep it all in because we think we're going to be judged on it, but we're really not, because if anyone came up to me and asked me for like a break, you wouldn't make a big deal out of it, but as much as we would. So I would openly communicate it, and if still nothing changes, then then you can just assess your values and see where you want to be. But take away that shame from asking and talking about those things, because it needs to happen. And I'm real stoked that we are like surrounded in this generation that is stopping, is more self-aware probably, and is stopping generational traumas and just being like, oh, well, Dad did it that way, so I'm going to do it this way. And then I feel like all of our age group are like, why are we doing it like that now? Like, it's quite cool to see that. And as you were saying at the start about how you followed your dad's footsteps, it's so easy to do. And I think I have to forgive my father a lot, because I have to be like, no, he only learnt that from someone else. That's not him. And then you can sort of get the gist of where their perspective is coming in from. It's just everything to learn behaviour, isn't it?
Thank you for that. Hey, I've got a rather long one here from Bex Green. Kia ora, Bex. I'm going to read this out. Poor Kane keeps dropping in and out. So people are finding it super tough to combat the challenges facing the industry and government regulations hitting us hard and fast. Staff shortages or issues, COVID, economy costs rising every day. I often hear people wanting to quit our amazing industry because it just seems too hard. How do you guys feel about this? Thanks, Bex Green.
For me, I think, like, in terms of there's a lot of questions in there, but just delving into that last one there, how I often hear people wanting to quit our amazing industry because it just seems too hard. I think, like, I hear about it a lot. People have try to commit suicide, or when I say commit, it's not even a bloody crime anymore. Have tried to tap out, and because
the internet must be going a bit funky.
He's just going to check what's
he's on.
Oh, yeah.
He's on.
And so just going on from that, a lot of the times we try and strive for something that we think is success, whether it be farm ownership, or they see people with flash cars and a flash house, but we can physically, visually see success when it drives down the tanker track, right? Or the way that someone carries themselves, but we can't. It's really hard to feel what success is and what it feels like to be there. So a lot of the times I've heard a lot of people have like put their bloody life on the line, smashing out big hours trying to be a farmer and get to be to this position, only to find out that it's not as great as they thought it was going to be when they get there. They've lost their wife or their family. They're bloody in debt, or they don't own their farm, or they own their farm, but they're tied to their farm. They can't go diving. They can't go to they're getting calls while they're at their son's wedding because the cow shed won't start. Like, all of these things just start happening, and they can never undo the tie that they've got to the farm. So, I hear these messages are coming in quite heavy over the last year, with farmers wanting to be successful, getting there and finding out it's not the right place, the place that they thought it was going to be. And it's awesome to see people up around where Kane is and up in the North Island going to like once a day, and getting that real good work-life balance and actually bloody enjoying farming and enjoying just getting up and milking in the morning and seeing the girls and shifting them in the arvo and not worrying about the bottom line so much and having time to spend with their family. I think that's our perception of success in the industry. It can be quite warped, and sometimes you got to live in the now,
Yeah, no, great answer. Thank you. Anything to add, Ali, to that?
That question just bubbles up a whole lot of anxiety. There's so much on for farmers at the moment, and that's probably why we are seeing quite bad mental illness rates in rural communities, because how I define depression is the shutdown from overwhelm. So it could be from one thing, it could be from 10 things. And I think it is really important, as Tangara touched on, to spend time off farm. What I'm seeing a lot of farmers is, and experience myself, this is a personal opinion, is a lot of the time the farm is the passion, the hobby, the work, the social, the everything. The farm is the everything. So if the farm is the everything and that one thing doesn't go right, there's no other things to go to find a sense of peace or relief or something like that. So I'm a real advocate for farmers to have hobbies outside of the farm or learn something completely new. And try and because when one thing's falling down, then you want to turn to another thing to boost yourself up or get a bit of, an adrenaline or happiness. Or that's where I really like to see the Surfing for Farmers thing. I think it's amazing because it gets people off in the sea just to have an hour of thinking about the farm. Because the more you just, there is more pressures coming in, and it'd probably be a really good question to ask someone who went through the subsidies cuts back in the 70s, 60s, 80s? Well, mum and dad's age. And there
that's
was a
what
lot
I'm
of
saying, mum
farmers
and
there
dad's
that
age, mate. It's before my time.
I don't even know. I can't even know what year it was. But anyway, so there'll be people in the chat that will. But I'd love to ask them, but like a lot of the time they'd be like, shit, this is a challenge. Like, we didn't even expect this. And they were going to give up farming then. But then it obviously made farming get better in New Zealand. So it's really hard to see change as a positive. It's really hard to see it until hindsight. But I think you just have to try and have balance.
It's finding that balance, because I think post COVID, that last lockdown, we got out and we thought it was doom and gloom, the world was going to end, everyone Armageddon. But realistically, everything just increased. We're going to use plumbing again for an example. There was no downtime. There was no downing tools until this lockdown. It was so full on. So there's that really work-life balance. Like I said, I was in my burnout. I was seeing more burnout versus in the last sort of 6 to 8 weeks than anything else. And it's just trying to get these people to get people thinking around how do we find that balance. I don't know. It's a tough one though. On the farm's hard too, because it's 24/7. So
I think our as farmers, our experience of lockdown is the total opposite to the experience that our urban whānau will have. So, like our urban family will be like, I'm sick of working around people. I want to be at home with my family. So they're now they can work from home. They can spend time with their family, and they don't have to go to work where there's a lot of people. Whereas farmers, we're like sick of being at home. We're sick of being around our family. And now we can't go out to the community and see anybody, And I mean, I don't know about everyone else that's farming, but majority of the people probably only get off farm, every 10 days or, for every fortnight. And so that's just been taken away from us. And that one day was our release. Was, it was the opposite for the urban whānau. Their one day at home was like, oh, it's so mean. Whereas they get to indulge in that full time, and we can't go diving, we can't go fishing, we just can't go out and do something else that's other than being around our bloody family, and so.
Kia ora. Some great points. Here's another one from there's no one attached to this, but it's a good question. When you're in your darkest moment, what are your mechanisms to get out of it to cope? Tanira.
Have you got something? Have you got something there? Any? You got something, Kano?
What are my mechanisms? I often look to, I guess, my past and what I've been through before. I think taking some of the strength from your previous challenges you've been through has been quite powerful for me. So recognizing what you're actually capable of and understanding that, I guess personally I've created a belief that whatever comes at me I can handle, because I've been through things I didn't believe I could get through, and I have, and realized I survived and I got stronger from it. So I think that belief and understanding within yourself that you're capable of more, and I think when you do that throughout life and sort of look back on your life and you know, take those learnings and understand that thought that, you know, you are capable of getting through it. You know, you got to be able to, I guess, when the light at the end of the tunnel fades and there's nothing, you've got to be able to be your own light in a way. And that's where I think I really draw on strength from the past and things I've done. And, you know, if you can get through one thing in life that you didn't think you could get through, you can use that to carry your torch forever, I reckon. You know, that one understanding that you've been through something you didn't think you'd make it through. You just need to get through one of them in your life, and you can use that same thought process as long as you need to. That's something that's been pretty powerful for me, I think.
Kia ora. I've just been told by the boss, guys, that's what, thank you, Kane. We got to 10 past, so we've got another 13 minutes. There's so many questions and so many amazing people online. So anything to add to that? So what would be your coping mechanism, Hanaloa?
So for me, mate, I've got a lot of a shitload on my plate at the moment. It's overflowing, and I'm finding myself letting a lot of people down, and it's trying to figure out who to let down and who not to let down, and what actually let down is. And obviously that feeling of overwhelm, the feeling of disappointing people that you hold close to you, and so all of these things obviously fall in line with anxiety. And so all I do is it only takes me about 3-4 minutes to get my head around it. And so I just practice the 4-second inhale, 7-second hold, and then the 8-second exhale. So 4, 7, 8. I do 10 rounds of that. So 3 minutes, man, and I'm done and dusted. And I just literally lie flat on the ground. I've even done it sometimes, man. It might sound a little bit weird because farmers are like, you know, that's bloody far-fetched, or, you know, he's bloody weirdo or whatever. But sometimes I've been at the cow shed just sitting on my seat just because of a financial situation where ends weren't going to meet by about 2 days. And, you know, I'm probably speaking for a lot of farmers right now. We're about to go into a pretty tight spot coming in through August, September, and overheads and whatnot. And, you know, I've just had to practice that for 10 rounds, 3.5 minutes. And then straight after that, I just talk to myself and I say, you know, what's my high for the day so far, or the last 24 hours, what's my low? And then who's been my superhero for that last 24 hours? And it, like, just what I think it does is it zones me out, gives me perspective, makes me fully aware of the present, because it's literally activating my nervous system, and I just like am able to just cope really, really well. Whereas before, I used to bloody cry, man. I used to come home, cry to my missus and be like, fuck, what are we going to do? Now I'm just like, boom, sorted. And it come back,
Nah, kia ora, thank you. Hey, there's a great question here from Francisca Taulago. Wondering what your thoughts are, team, on getting men to open up and be vulnerable. There's such a reluctance in the industry to be honest and transparent and hide behind only talking about what's happening on the farm. Great question. How do we get our men to open up and talk when things are shit?
I just think it's easier to tell someone that you've shit your pants if someone else has shit their pants. But if no one's shit their pants, you're going to sit on it and say, fuck all. Or if I shit my pants up, you know, if everyone was farting, you know, you'd be like, ha, mine was worse.
Yeah.
But if you fart, like, a lot of the time people are like, who it smells, you know? So it's easy to talk about your feelings when someone else is doing it, you know? It's been so hidden, man. It's been the people that we've all looked up to, they don't show it. So, you know, that's vulnerability. So I think, by, you know, people like Kano and that obviously inspire a lot of people, especially males. Hey, you know, obviously males, I don't know what it's like for you, Ali, but yeah.
I know. Anything to add, Ali? Is anything? You know, how do we get our men? How do we get our even, you know, on the farm talking about how we're thinking and feeling?
From a female perspective, probably just stop talking and allow time for them to think. I love the book. What is it? Men are from Venus and women are from Mars. And it pretty much describes the difference between the two and how they are completely different. And I know I'm a sucker for jumping in and forcing the conversation. And being like, tell me what's wrong. Why unhappy? And I know that just makes them shut down even more. And I've learned that the hard way. But to probably create a safe, open environment, one, I would probably start by, leading by example, talking about your past experiences, what's gone wrong in your life, and sort of take away the judgment as well. And then it will kind of make them feel like, they won't judge me. They've been through something difficult as well. I've changed the way I talk. I don't ask people how they are anymore because I feel like people just say good, fine, quickly. So I go like, oh, are you happy today? Or on a scale, like, what's your happiness level? Are you happy? Because it's a yes or no question. And then when it's a no, not feeling like, then you can sort of find out the whys and how you can get around that. But just asking a question, I don't know if you guys down the bottom will ask a question and then I've got to wait like 2 minutes before they answer, because women, we think aloud, and when we have an idea, we just ramble. But men, I feel like they make their decision, and when they say it, they mean it, or they mean what they say.
Yeah. Well, you
So
see that,
I really have to be patient, and just wait patient.
Because you see that in that generation. You always see, the woman, the wahine, sitting around knitting or as a group, and the men are sitting around the barbecue, stabbing a sausage and just, how you doing? And that's that. There's no conversation. Where women are just, that's great. You're always communicating. So
yeah, I feel very fortunate to be a woman and allowed to bend and bitch whenever I want.
Exactly. Because Kane, how do you have staff on the farm, Kane?
No, mate, it's just me.
Yeah. So even in teams or boxing or with your farm fit, how do you recognise? How do you pinpoint the signs when someone's not there? When someone's struggling mentally. Can you?
As airy fairy as it sounds, probably their energy.
Yeah.
Or you sometimes pick up on a vibe. And I think what Ali said about asking how you are is great, because, whenever anyone ever asks me how I am, I'm good, or how's it? Yeah, no worries, sort of thing. So being a little bit more specific and a bit more strategic about how you talk to people, and you almost, I think with males need to, if you can't show your vulnerability, so that they know that it's a safe space to talk, and it's being smart around how you draw it out of them. And I think if you can pick up on someone's energy, maybe their year good isn't their normal sparky year good. If you can get them on their own, I think what I've found is if you can just sort of press that a little bit, not press it, but just, I think when men get the feeling that the other person sees past their year good, they have to make a decision about whether they are really going to open up or not. And I think with certain people, if you ask the right questions, you can't. It's bloody hard to look at people in the eye and lie to them. So, if you can make that how are you a little bit more specific, or draw a little bit more out of them, I think you'll find you can lead them down that path. It's just sort of like holding your hand, I guess. Us fellas don't really know where we're walking sometimes, so it's good for the female to take the lead and just hold their hand and walk them down that road of opening up a bit. And it's a big part of it is who you're opening up to. I think certainly in my circumstances, it's the person I'm talking to where I feel comfortable being vulnerable, and that's a pretty. I think for a lot of males, there may only be one or two people in their lives ever that they feel that comfort. So
True,
yeah,
true.
for me, it's all about picking up on their energy and trying to walk them down that path of not forcing them into it, just gently walking them down it and hoping that they're brave enough to share, I guess.
Kia ora, thank you for that. Hey, I've got a good question here. It's probably last one. It's been earpieces. I said last one from my boss sitting beside me. Do you guys have any suggestions for the younger generation who are starting out in the agriculture industry? I had my first job that wasn't on my parents' farm not long ago, and it was hard work mentally. I got into a bad headspace when one thing went wrong, which then led to everything going downhill from there. Obviously, we aren't expected to know everything yet, but do you have any ideas or ways to cope with doing things wrong and keeping in a positive mental space? Thanks, Danny. So more or less saying, yeah, when things turn to custard, what's some good positive tips?
I actually wrote a massive post about this, but it's on my Instagram. But over a couple of years ago, pretty much saying like what it's okay to like the process of starting out. And I think one of the things that I really struggled with is if you mess up, it's okay. And you'll be forgiven as long as you're honest early. I used to cover up my fuck ups because I was so scared of conflict. I remember my first job, second time I was in a tractor, I was in freaking North Otago and I ran the mower into a power pole. And I tried to change blades. I tried everything. I was to cover it up. And I'm like, you just have to allow yourself that you are young and you don't grow unless you make mistakes. And people are so forgiving if you're honest and quit early on the ball. And I think that's one of my biggest probably tips of it all is, you're not expected to know anything. And if you didn't get it the first time, you're allowed to ask the second time. Like when I was fencing, I got told once, and then I just spent the whole day on YouTube clips of how to do that knot.
Shit.
Right.
You just muted.
Oh, I lost you there for a bit, Ellie. Lost you there.
She muted herself.
I think your pod's died, eh? But you're also muted. You're also muted, Ellie.
Can you do that?
Oh, then where's she from?
Oh, you're muted.
Oh no!
Just say.
Oh, bugger. You
That's
got anything
right.
on there, Kano?
I guess something that comes to mind is the quote, you don't lose, you learn. So I think having that mindset that every fuck up's that's an opportunity to learn something, and shit, I've made plenty, but it's having that mindset, I think, of learning from them, and I think honesty is a big one with stuffing up. But just understanding, it's hard, I think, with the older generation because they forget a lot of their mistakes they made when they were 18 or 19 or 20. So you gotta have a bit of a tough chin, I think, too. You gotta take a little bit on the chin sometimes, but also just having the having that mindset of learning from them. You only lose when you give up. Failure is just a part of success. Every one success takes 100 failures, sort of thing. So that was my biggest thing, I think, developing from going from a young farmer to management roles and learning was understanding that one success takes 100 fuck ups before. So I think it's definitely an attitude towards them, and having a little bit of thick skin, I think, with employers, being honest with them, but having that tough enough skin, I think, to get over it, and tomorrow's a new day to start again and learn from yesterday, but carry on is a pretty valuable thing to learn as well.
I think as an employer, it's the best way that an employer can hear about a stuff up is straight up and honest. The fact that they've had a crack at trying to fix it but couldn't fix it, and then now you can go down there and help them out, because like we're quick to get over the fact that something's broken because shit breaks all the time, But it's when it's a surprise and someone's parked it back up again, unfixed, and you're ready to go, and you got your drink, you got your coffee, and you get on the machine and you take it off and you get way away from the workshop and you go and frickin' turn it on and you realise that Ellie's stuffed it up by hitting a frickin' power pole. You know what I mean? But the best way to get that information delivered as a boss, I think, for a lot of, I'll be speaking on behalf of a lot of bosses, is from the young person coming up. Hey, I've fucked the mower. I'll try to fix it. I don't think it's right. Could you come down and give me a hand? Because a lot of the times, people, the young people that I've employed over the last 5 years, just park it up and try and like pretend it didn't happen or it wasn't them. And then you ask them, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I forgot." So I think failure's reflection, and if you're the person doing it, it's like shit, we've stuffed up, but you can take it away by reflecting on it. How can we do it better? So
Awesome.
yeah, there's my 10 cents.
Cool. Hey, thanks, guys. I'm just having to wrap it up, but there's one quick fire question I've got here, just real quick, just to finish off, team. So I'm going to start with Ellie. What is your top tip to be in tip-top shape mentally? What's one tip that keeps you mentally well?
Being active in some way or form. I mean, I'm not farming anymore, so I don't have the every day is work as fitness and being active. So I have to really set aside time now that I'm behind a computer screen most of the day. And if I'm angry, because I feel like movement, any type of movement, whether it's slow or it could be yoga or stretching or it could be walking, it doesn't have to be massive definitely get on Farm Fit and, release some energy that way. But movement releases stored energy. So if I'm feeling sad, frustrated, guilty or angry, I just have to move and then it releases it out of your body. It's another way of sort of processing without having to talk to someone. So I think movement is key for everything that I always struggle with.
Kia ora, Ellie. Thank you. Kane?
It's a hard question. I think probably for me, being a male, I think, a lot of people would expect me to say exercise, but it's probably not. I think probably for me is like gratitude and perspective.
Nice.
One of the most important things I did was make a decision to every day stop and smell the roses. I sort of called it was just to stop and have a couple of minutes, and no matter how shit everything is, whatever's going on in your personal or on the farm, was just to find some positives in it, and that gives so much. That changes your perspective on things, and if you can be grateful in the worst of times, it makes the good times so much better as well. So I'd say taking a couple of minutes every day to be grateful, and along with that, probably the other most important thing I did was be really clear on my purpose. So be super clear on those and have a purpose every day, because I think every human being needs a purpose when they get up. Everyone needs a reason to get out of bed, and you need to be connected to that reason. So purpose and gratitude are huge for me.
Kia ora, mate. And it's just so vital because we're so busy. And it's actually stopping and being present and going, actually, this coffee's beautiful.
Yeah, bloody oath.
Yeah. Kia ora. Tanaroa?
Bro. So I've got a gym in town called the Barracks, and I've been play rugby since I was 9 years old, and sports has been a big part of my life. And probably for the last 14 months, I haven't done any of it. I've played shit rugby, and I've played shit rugby as I've moved from a number 7 to a number 1. I've gotten sloppy, but I've got to be honest, say the one thing that I don't regret in life is spending time with being a better lover with the people that I love, and And I'm
Sure.
talking about.
Keep it clean, bro.
I'm not talking about making love. 'Cause that's only a 1 minute blast. But I'm talking about like, spending time with my son and my partner and
Sure.
calling the people I love, because like that is one thing that I don't regret. I can go to the gym and regret going because I probably should have been doing something on farm, but I've never spent a minute with my son and thought, fuck, I shouldn't have done that. I should have been out doing that post. There's one thing that I do have zero regrets about spending time with the people that I love. So for me, bro, it's been being a better lover, bro.
Awesome. And that's with whānau and staff too. Looking after
Yeah.
the staff, though. Yeah. Kia ora. Kia ora, bro. Hey, thank you. Look, we could talk for hours, and it's a shame I've got the producer beside me going, we can cut it. But it's been a privilege, and thank you for the 273-ish people that have checked in and just been part of this. A privilege to meet such an incredible people doing amazing spaces in the farming industry in our ag sector, because we just need more of it, and we need to get our young people and not so young people to reach out, speak up and connect, and just say, actually, fuck, I'm feeling shit. I need to talk. And Ali, just a wee bit more on that that stuff you're doing with, so you're having that extra funding coming up. How do people access that once it's up and running?
Yeah, so in the first week of September is when we're launching Rule Change. And if you're following any of the Will to Live social platforms, you'll see in the next few weeks exactly how you can access the fund. But currently it's anyone that's living, employed, owning, managing a livestock farm in New Zealand, sheep, beef, dairy, deer.
Yeah.
You can access the fund for 3 sessions, and it just takes a real 2-minute quick application form via our website, and then you just tell us a bit about your location. You don't even have to tell us what you think's wrong, and we'll jack up. We'll be able to show you who is available and has really short wait times in your area, your local area. And there will be online options as well, but I think it's pretty cool if you can find someone close that's down the road. And you're allowed to be picky, and you'll have a whole list you can choose from. You can research into them and see which person you think you'll gel with. And you don't have to stick with the same person. I'm a real big believer. I didn't like my first 3 counsellors. So I keep changing because you just have to find someone that you can really gel with. So that'll be accessible, in September.
Oh, kia ora. And that's one tip, if I can give a tip, and you're spot on. If you don't, so that 2-session rule, if you're not engaging or you're feeling you're not being listened to, abort mission. You need to find someone you can really feel you're connecting, and you're walking away going, fuck, that made a lot of sense. So very, very wise words there, Ali, because you need to connect with the person you're sitting in front of, who you're talking to. So I've just been told, what's that, sorry? Oh, just the host, finish up. I've got to finish up. So thank you, Ali Kane and Tanaroa, for coming on this evening, and thank you, viewers, for joining us. 273 amazing people to take time and hang out with us. It's awesome. And then we should do this again. I think it's just such a great connection.
Absolutely.
So lovely to meet you all.
Any other questions?
What's that, sorry, Ali?
I said if your question didn't get answered, feel free to go into any of our social platforms, Kane, or mine, and just ask them anytime. I love
That'll
messages.
be amazing. Yeah, and honestly too, team out there too, if you're feeling this has brought up some stuff, just either reach out to young farmers, or like I said, I think there's a link to my, look, I'm happy to check in if you're needing any sort of catch up, and I do know there's lots of services out there. There's GPs, and anyway, if you're needing anything, please don't be shy to put your hand up for a kōrero. Kia ora.
Kia ora, bro.
Thanks
Thanks for that.
Awesome.
Thank you. Lovely to meet you all. See you, bro.
Cheers.
Cheers.
How do we